time to gather round. Get all the kids in the neighborhood. Yeah! We'll sit in circles and clap our hands and clap, clap, clap. We'll jump up and down and scream. Yeah! It's the serial killer story hour, and it's live with Pete Altieri. That's the bald guy from Murder Metal Mayhem. Come on, kids, scream out! Serial killer story hour, yeah! Serial killer story hour, yeah, yeah! How about one more time with some balls, kids? Yeah. Serial killer story hour, yeah! Horns high, high, high.
Wow, I almost didn't make it today. I don't think I've ever eaten so fast since I've left basic training, but I'm here. I'm in one piece. And I was kind of laughing as I looked at my timer I had set, and it didn't give me very much time, but good to see everybody here. Don't mind the drinking. It is diet root beer, but it's very good diet root beer. All right. Very good. We got testing to see what my name is this time. Oh boy, you're gonna make me try to pronounce that. Okay, I'll give it a try. All right, so we've got misleading evidence herself here. First one in, Donna Lembo, the captain of the Mayhem Squad, the head of the moderators that roam the prairie looking for people that want to be foolish. Voice of Astrology with Karis, very nice. And Dachshund Nader. I'm going to go with that. Does that sound right? Dachshund? I guess. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. And there's my mom. All right, awesome. Mom is here. It's not Jethro. You guys are cracking me up. All right, very good. Well, we're going to do some serial killer story hour here tonight. I had a busy day with some medical appointments and a lot of stuff going on with things. But just a heads up, I will not be having surgery on Friday. Originally, I had it on I'd let you guys know because it was going to change things possibly with the live on the weekend. Or I was just going to do it from the hospital room, which would have been cool. But it's not going to be this Friday. So I'll be just the usual this Friday. We'll do something on the weekend. I'm working on a guest or two maybe for this one. So I'll let you know if I'm able to get them lined up to do that. See if anybody can guess who this is on my t-shirt. I got this from TeePublic, and I'll give you a couple of Murder Metal Mayhem stickers if you could tell me who this person is. All right, so this is good to know here. So it says, "Yeah, Pete, you pronounced it right. All right, very good." And my name is Jethro Troll. Excellent. Yeah, I love that screen name. I always tell you that when I see it. So that's good to know you're one and the same. Very good. Very good. Speaking of one and the same, I'm going to be starting a new YouTube channel. I'm keeping things kind of quiet right now as I'm working on it, but it's going to center around the story of my medical ordeal and the book and everything associated with that. I'm going to do that as a separate channel because if I try to mix the writing stuff with the true crime, the algorithm doesn't know who to show it to, and so the non true crime stuff doesn't stand a chance. So if we do it this way, it'll be better. So it'll start at ground zero with the subs. So I'll be letting you know what that is if you're interested in becoming a member or a subscriber over there. So, right. Well, we're going to be talking about a very gruesome serial killer. This is a guy we did on the Murder Metal Mayhem podcast pretty early on. He's one of the more obscure, I think, when it comes down to it. But his reach of influence is pretty significant because there are quite a few similarities between what he's done or has done and some of these other sickos that followed him. But Heidnik would have been operating in that golden age of the serial killer. Peter Vronsky always talks about in his books. The 70s and 80s into the early 90s was like prime time for serial killers because there wasn't all the cameras everywhere and all the things that we have today, right? It makes it a lot harder for these guys to get away with stuff. So, okay. If you haven't already liked the video, if you don't mind, do that. And if you are not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe. And the way we do these is I'll go into the explanation of who Heidnik is and some of the history and his crimes, and then I will talk about the trial and everything. We'll summarize it, and then I'll come back to you guys and we can have a discussion about it. Obviously, you guys, are good at discussing things on your own anyway. So have no fear. I'm close by, but I'll be reading through this stuff to kind of catch you up to speed. That some of these stories are just brutal. Here's one. Snowpia says the story last week has me back for more. That's great. Now, by story, I'm not sure if you're talking about the stories I read from my books, or you're talking about the serial killer story hour. In either way, that's awesome. I'm glad that you checked this one out. And yeah, this guy, Foxy Rose says, can't wait to hear about this one. It sounds juicy. Yeah, I mean, he's messed up. And he's got the preacher thing in there, so he's wheeling and dealing. He's driving this big pimped out car. Just thinks he's the cat's ass, So we're gonna talk about it. So yeah, from my books, I don't have any that I'm getting ready to release again, but I just mentioned the other channel I'm going to be starting that's going to feature the story of my battle with necrotizing fasciitis and the amputation and how I ended up in this chair, and all of that is going to be something that we'll discuss on that channel and get into the book, and I'll be reading chapters of the book and rolling it out over time. Each week I'll release another one, and I think people will really dig it. It's a really great idea. A friend of mine was kind of pushing me that way, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So, all right, so let's get down to it. This guy, he is special. Okay, so this guy was active in Philadelphia. So you don't hear a lot of true crime from Philadelphia stories other than during the mobster stuff. But so this guy, yeah, coming from Philly in the 1980s. He definitely had a lot of influence on pop culture. As you may know, he is the true inspiration for Buffalo Bill and Silence of the Lambs. Now, there's that Ed Gein docu-series or whatever you want to call it. It's absurd. But it talks about how Geen was part of that too, and I would agree that he definitely added to it. But this guy, this dude Heidnik, is to me the true, um, you know, guy behind that character, because he's just brutal, and so that's kind of scary to think of this guy being that influencer of something like that. But in his childhood, he's born November 22nd, 1943, in Eastlake, Ohio. Parents get divorced when he's young, and he's kind of raised by bouncing back and forth between the parents. Very unstable, situation. There was a lot of abuse alleged from the father. Would get drunk and just very very abusive towards the son, and humiliated him over bedwetting, which is a very traumatic thing for a kid to go through. And so to do that is just awful. I always hate when I hear stories like that, because it's just like, man, what the hell? People are just messed up. But he embarrassed them over it, and that's a common thing. There's that McDonald triad, which a lot of people still use it. It's kind of outdated, but talks about the bedwetting as kind of a precursor to violent behavior, serial crime, not so much murder, but just crime. And you could see where it's coming from, right? You're kind of, you're embarrassed, you're hateful, because you're all the kids are probably picking on you, and everybody's picking on you. Your father's picking on you. I mean, you would just get very, very, I would think, very vengeful. And so once that little boy has become an adolescent or a man, that's when things get, really scary, because that stuff's going to come out at some point. Um, but he was also very isolated, and that's a big one with just about every serial killer I've done on the Murder Metal Mayhem podcast. Very, very, isolated, can mingle in with groups as needed. And that's a thing about psychopaths. They don't have any emotion. They don't show it. And so they have to learn it. And so that's what they do, is they go and put themselves in social situations to learn how to react when somebody says something. It sounds weird to us, but that's what that's like. Um, but he's having behavioral issues in school, because this kid had a high IQ, 148, which is really high. But he had poor social skills because of, again, that isolation. And he did briefly attend military academy, but you could just tell with a kid like this, that's not going to do a whole lot of good. Okay. So as he gets older, he finds himself really drawn to wanting to start a church. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that, but this guy, is has some strange intentions. Okay. So he founded the United Church of the Ministers of God in 1971 in Philadelphia. He started with only 5 followers and $1,500, and eventually, by investments, because this guy was really, really smart and really, really good with money. He invested that money, and that 1,500 became 500,000. So this guy, I mean, for all I was picking on him, I mean, he's legit good with the finances. But he's self-appointed Bishop Heidnik, so that's what they that's what they had to call him. The services were held in his home. His home was in a very depressed area, not very pleasant looking from the outside. I don't know if I've seen very many pictures, if any, inside, but outside for sure. And he uses the church as kind of a front for learning how to manipulate and control people. So this dude is scary. I mean, you got somebody with a high IQ. He could get up in front of people. He could talk. He could be very convincing. And at the same time, he's soaking in as much information out of you as possible, and there's some scary people. And so that's what he's using the church for. And he's also assaulting women, and he's a horrific. And we're going to get into some of the crimes and stuff now, but I'm going to hold it for a second. But have you guys heard of this guy before? Anybody in the crowd heard of Gary Heidnik? It was one that I got to admit, I don't think I had ever heard of him before we did the podcast on him, but I was just curious if anybody. Oh, here's Mark and Betty. You know what? I was going to do a UK case here recently, and I can't remember what pulled me away from it. But we did it. We did the what was her name? The one with the knife, Jessica or Jessie. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but we did that case. We could maybe do some Fred and Rose. That would be, or the Moores murders. We've done podcasts on both of those. We could do quite a few. There's the one with the guy flushing the bodies down the toilet, plugs up the building's plumbing system. What was that guy's name? He was English too. So there's who's it?
Nielsen.
Oh yeah, Nielsen. Yeah, Nielsen. That would be a good one. Yeah, there's millions of them. But okay, we'll do a UK case next week. If you have a suggestion, throw it up there for a UK case. But yeah, I like to bounce around. I like to do some Australian stuff. A lot of them in Europe we've done, Germany, France. I actually interviewed the vampire of Paris, and that was a pretty weird interview because he was a murderer who did his time and got out, but he was drinking blood and doing all this kind of weird stuff. And I got a chance to interview him. It's actually on the channel. If you go to the interview, I think it's interview or something related to interviews on the channel. I've got a playlist. You can check it out. It's pretty cool. So Gary Heidnik, he's I'm gonna tell you about what's up with this guy here as we get into it now. I'm gonna close this out. Got way too many windows open. All right, here we go. So between November of 86 and March of 87, this guy kidnapped 6 women. I don't know about all of them. I don't think all of them were, but there were at least half of them were disabled, mentally disabled women, and just absolutely horrific. I mean, for any woman, it's horrific, but these poor women were just put through a lot. Okay. So he held them captive in his basement. He dug out, it was like a dirt floor cellar. So he cut down into the dirt and made like a pit. And he had them chained up in this pit. And every day, I mean, he had like a routine. He fed them basically like dogs. And then he, tortured, assaulted, you name it, it happened every day, repeatedly every day. And this was just absolutely brutal. And as time went on, he got more and more warped. He was putting women down in this pit and filling the bottom of it with water, and then putting a electrical wire connecting from a battery and then throwing it in the water. So it's like zapping them as they fall into the water, and they're trying not to get in the water. I mean, bad stuff. I mean, this guy was just ridiculously horrific. And he held them like this and subjected them to this day in and day out. And he kept the music loud, kind of like the guy in Cleveland did that. Kept the music really loud. He was always playing like church music and stuff in the house. And it was weird though, because they had the church in the house, but yet he's got these 6 women chained up in the basement. I mean, geez. And then he forced the victims to actually torture each other. And then one victim's body was found ground up and actually mixed with the dog food that he had been feeding his dogs, and feeding that to the women, the remaining prisoners, like a mix between the human and dog food. I mean, just awful, awful beyond compare. And the house stunk, and they had a cop showed up because somebody had complained about the smells coming from this dude's house. Because, like I said, he's got like the doors open, he's jamming his tunes, like he's just very, very, forward about it. It's not like he's trying to hide it. And so maybe he did that to, think, well, there's nothing, that guy's not hiding anything. He's got all his doors and windows open. But he said he had a roast in the oven and it burnt the roast. And he apologized for the smell. But it's like, no, that's not burnt roast. That's like decaying flesh. I mean, it's really disgusting. So you've got, this guy barely over a year doing, or actually, yeah, less than a year, November 86 to March 87. So only, 5 months this is happening. But he's got these women in the basement. He's feeding them like either like some McDonald's at the end of the day, very meager portions, or like I said, we're getting like dog food at some point. He was running out of money. But he still had money in the bank. Like I said, this guy was kind of odd because he was so smart with the money, but yet he was dumb with it at the same time. And 2 of the women died, Sarah Lindsay and Deborah Dudley. Those 2 did not make it. The first victim, though, Josefina Rivera, she eventually escapes, and she tells Heidnik that she is, really, really needs to talk to her parents. And she gives him some sob story that he believes, and he lets her go see her parents, which is really crazy. And so she has her boyfriend take her to the parents, and then she calls 911 and reports it. And they describe, did what they needed to do to be able to, get that situation stopped. And so she saved the rest of them, which was really, really good. I didn't see much in the way of like a big standoff with him. But he does have prior history of SA and domestic abuse, including attacking his own wife, assaulting his own wife. Just horrific. And I've got some other stuff here. Let's see. Yeah, so one of the victims the survivors were able to, of course, report back what happened. But he said, he's choking and handcuffing him, forced her into a pit into the floor, covered with boards to block the light. Over time, he kidnapped 5 more women and chained them to pipes or kept them in the pit. He subjected them to repeated SA, beatings, starvation, and psychological torture. He used manipulation and fear, forcing the women to torture each other to avoid punishment. One of the women died, Sandra Lindsay, died from malnutrition and untreated injuries. And that's the one that Heidnik dismembered and then cooked the parts of it, fed it to the rest, really sick. And then another victim, Deborah Dudley, the other one I mentioned, she was killed by an electrocution after being in that pit with the electricity current or electric current running through it. So really, really sick. really, really sick. This guy is like the worst of the worst, just really bad. So the trial did not wasn't a big deal. There weren't any big revelations that came out of it, because, like I said, he had that prior history. They had a lot of evidence. They had all these witnesses. Um, so he's arrested in March of '87, charged with multiple counts of murder, kidnapping, and SA. Um, the defense claimed mental illness, but prosecution argued that he was competent. Um, he's convicted and sentenced to death in 1988, and he's executed by lethal injection on July 6, 1999. That's pretty fast. Last person executed in Pennsylvania as of this year. So I did not know that he was the last one. So yeah, but he was only on death row for 11 years. That's pretty quick. So yeah, whatever you think about, we could talk about that. What you guys think about the death penalty? Do you agree with it or not? Let's talk about that. But any other things about this guy? I'm just looking through this real quick. Um, I think the big thing with this guy is just the failure of the system. Entirely just letting this guy just keep doing what he was doing. Just awful. Just slid under the radar. All right, so Karis from Voice of Astrology asked a really good question. Is this the guy that Silence of the Lambs fashioned after it puts the lotion on the body? Yes. Yeah, so he's the Buffalo Bill character. Now, the real Hannibal Lecter was this guy. He was the guy that wrote the book, John Harris, I think his name is. I'd have to say this guy is probably Thomas Harris. If I was to say like modern authors that I really admire, it would be him because his books are great. But he wrote the series on Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs is the second book. The first one was Red Dragon. But the other character of what's his name, Silence of the Lambs, he was this prisoner down in Mexico. The author went to interview this person, but he was like, he had done something wrong, so they weren't going to allow the interview. So instead, he interviewed this doctor, and he met this doctor. He's just an inmate there, and he interviewed him, and he was the precursor to Hannibal Lecter in being a doctor and everything else. So I thought that was really cool. I find myself doing the same thing, like, and I'm not trying to put myself on any kind of stature with this guy. I'm just saying that there's things like that I notice, and just being in the world, and you see something, it's like, it gives you an idea. So I thought it was really cool that he interviewed the wrong guy and came back with a career, because he put out like 5 or 6 books, and every one of them is great. I mean, I love those books. All right, let's see. Here we go. Mark and Betty say, Pete, do the Alistair Wilson case. I'm not familiar with that. I love that name, though. That's so UK, right? I mean, Alistair, that's just classic. And Jill Dando. Not familiar with Jill Dando either. Very cool. Yeah, I'm gonna check into that. Let me see here. If my wife can maybe write this down for me. Alistair Wilson and Jill Dando. Maybe do some checking on that, seeing how see if we can find it. We're always looking for good true crime. But I'll check it out for sure, Mark and Betty. I will do that. Snowpia says my mother read those. I would be trying to get out of her apartment as she hollered to me what was happening in the story. Yeah, those books are harrowing. I mean, wow. They do such a good job in the movies too. I mean, the movies are excellent as well. Yeah, definitely some of my favorites. All right, so let me look and see how this. If there's anything I wanted to. Okay, no, I think we got through that. So yeah, he gets executed quick. I mean, they weren't fooling around over there in Pennsylvania. So, all right. Well, next week we're going to go to the UK. All right. Or I'm sorry. Next week I have this lined up. I got to check with my friend, but I'm pretty sure he'll be able to do it because I already got this in my notes and over here in the banners. Let me pull this up. Um, oh, for God's sakes. So I thought this before we did the show. A good one to do would be the female killer, Carla Faye Tucker. She was a wild one down there in Texas, and she was executed. And I have a person that I know that was a corrections officer in the female death row while Carla Faye was there. And I'm going to see if I can get him to come on with me. That would be really cool. I would like to start doing a little bit more with some guests. I have done a couple. You've seen probably if you've been following it. I've had Shane on. I've had Juan on with me too, and I've got several people I could call on. Some that I've never worked with before, and others that I've worked with many times. But we can get some different guests in here when it's appropriate to the topic. I love doing the Canadian cases with Shane because he gives us some perspective on the how the Canadians look at these cases, and how their justice system works as compared to ours. It's kind of interesting some of the cases we've done up there. So there's just a lot of just true crime is just amazing. It really is. And I've been looking at some videos here lately. People really going wild over some of this stuff coming out and the document drops. I mean, I did my video. Um, let's see. I did my video. Why is my chair not wanting to move? There we go. I did my video on the some of the stuff that I was seeing with all this Idaho 4 stuff and the docs dropping and everything, and the fact that they knew about Koberger well before they were claiming they did. Um, that just really looks bad, because they knew about him on December 5th, according to a document in that dump from the Idaho State Police. They had the uh, town of Moscow reported two suspects. Two. The first one totally redacted, so you don't know what it is or who it is. Second one, Koberger, and they're trying to say that you know they had they had the DNA from the sheath in this package that they delivered to the labs. Really shady. I mean, really shady. And then Lee from Devil's Advocates, he had a really fiery episode I was watching today. Go check that guy out. He's off the charts. But Lee was talking about some issues and how it relates to all this new stuff coming out. And he just really just fired up at how people were just so easily swayed to throw Koberger under the bus and say he was guilty, instead of actually using their brain and looking at some of these things that don't make any damn sense. And I always liked Lee's approach, and he was very, very good. He's always very good at that. And so yeah, he's awesome. Honey, can you hand me my? I was going to show you guys my leg. You guys want to see? I meant to bring it over here. So my beautiful wife is going to hand it to me. Thank you. She's camera shy. She won't come on the camera, but some of you may have seen this from the last live I did over the weekend. But here's my new leg, and I'm calling him Vinny. All right, so like my cousin Vinny. So Vinny is his name, and this thing is very sturdy. It's got to be able to hold me up, but I'll show you the other parts. There's this, like, it's like a neoprene type material that goes over your leg, and then it's got this pin in it. The pin then goes into this, comes out there, and then this connects to the leg. And when you push it in, you hear a click, it's good, and then that's that. And I'm trying now to get my stump a little bit more compact like they wanted, and more conical, so that this way it goes into the everything much easier. So there'll be some growing pains with that because it hurts a little bit, but it's okay. And I have to put it on so much each day and stand in it and do that. So I'm going to be doing that here in a few minutes. But does anybody have anything else they want to talk about here? Let me see what else I want to show you. Channel memberships have actually been up. I want to say thank you to all members of the Horns High Club and the Mayhem Squad. You guys are amazing. So, yeah, with this condition with my hands, it's actually really hard for me to throw up the salute with my right hand. It's easier for me to do it with my left. So I'm going to be throwing up the salute for as long as I possibly can. If not, I'll have a fake arm throwing the horns up. I'll do that. So let's see. If you want to just help out, or I'm sorry, this one's for the writing stuff. If you're into horror and that sort of thing, you check out my writing. I got free samples you can read before you buy, that sort of thing. Got if you want to drop a comment below, do anything like that, feel free. And I think that's it, guys. So I didn't know how long this was going to take. And that's, I wanted to make sure that, we went over everything. I see Donna, of course, my cousin Vinny. Yeah, that's what, I love that movie. That's like my favorite movie. And I don't know how many times, like in a true crime story, I've been like, that's how they do it on my cousin Vinny. I mean, those guys are lawyers, so I use it as a reference often. I just like it. So yeah. And Foxy Rose says she likes the name as well. Let's see. Let me see. I'm going back through through the chat here just to see what you guys were talking about. See if I want to jump into any of these. So yeah, I had mentioned this when I was talking about it. What do you guys think about the death penalty? While you're posting your stuff, I'm going to mention, with me at least, that I don't look at it the same way now as I did before I started doing the Murder Metal Mayhem podcast. I don't know how many stories I've read and researched where somebody was, coerced into a confession or stuff like that, corruption, people getting, framed, some people may say Koberger's framed, I kind of think you're right. Something's funny, but he's, one of many, it's not just that case. It's all kinds of, cases like that. So, what do you guys think about the death penalty? I see misleading evidence is saying, who is on your shirt? Well, I had asked that at the beginning. I'll go ahead and do it again since there's probably different people in here now. If anybody can be the first one to guess who this is on my shirt, I'm going to give you a couple of Murder Metal Mayhem stickers. I'll send those to you. So see, you guys can figure it out. I'll give you a hint. It's an author. It's an author from the mid 20th century mostly. And he wrote some very iconic books. This shirt is for that book. So see if you can figure it out. What author wrote that book? So first one to get it gets a couple of free stickers I'll send to you. And I'll send you a little note too. Cool. All right. Yeah, I can't stop at TeePublic. They just got too many cool shirts, and you get them on a sale. You can get some really good deals. But all right, guys. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it there. I'll see you next week. We'll do this. I'll do a live this weekend. I'm gonna try to see if I could pull off a one, at least one, maybe a couple, to do something special. Just to kind of do something special. No particular, your particular reason, no particular reason. And Donna Lembo is correct. George Orwell. You are correct, Donna. I'll send you some stickers. I know you've been painting town over there with them, but I'll get you some more. I'll get you some. Very cool. All right. Well, with that, I guess I'll see you guys next time, and have a good night.
Yeah, I've heard it all before. It's just the outro and I'm out of here. If you did, you wouldn't be loving this sick, weird groove. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment to help us get out to more. Smash that like and subscribe before you go. You must be some high achiever to watch this whole thing. Copyright 2025 by Horns High Productions. Yeah.